And I'm looking at the page, and I see the countdown is going on the page. We got about a minute 15.
And we look at how many Facebook friends we have and how many Twitter friends we have. And I use myself as an example. When he says tell your neighbor a message, immediately I can tell 4,000, 5,000, 8,000 people what he just said.
You know, from my standpoint, talking to friends, we like to be taught, not necessarily preached to in the traditional sense. And the way that technology is set up now, we're able to get these teachings mobile.
My big thing about mobility, it's all about seeing the big picture. What the culture is doing, the church is sometimes slow to adopt. But the church has to make sure that to reach the culture and to be relevant, you have to adopt what people are using.
The church, really the original social network. That's where we gather not just to worship, but we fellowship. We also did political action. And the civil rights movement wouldn't have happened without it. So to see this institution actually take hold of it, I believe is something that is worth watching.
All right, peoples, we are live. So we want to welcome everybody to our Inspire Mobility Google Hangout. For all you all joining us, if you're on the Google Plus Hangout page, then you can connect with us and ask questions right there on the page. If you are on ichurchmethod.com/inspiremobility, we encourage you to tweet live with us, tweet questions with us right over to, I believe, your right, on the right side of the screen, is a Twitter module that you can utilize and tweet right there from on the screen. And if you're with us on mobile, watching via your mobile device, then you can use your Twitter app and tweet using the hashtag #InspireMobility, and we will respond and take your questions at the end of this Google Hangout. So let's get right into it. Welcome to the Inspire Mobility Google Hangout from the amazing panel that introduced the campaign in June at Blogging While Brown. We had such an amazing time at the conference, starting this national conversation, and we want to continue it online and have a Google Hangout. I'd like to welcome our panelists today. We have Chip Dizard, we have Tiffani Robinson, we have Michelle Smith, and I am Jason Caston. And without further ado, let's get right into things. And let's answer one of the major questions about this campaign and what is inspired mobility. And AT&T's Inspired Mobility is a national program that highlights how people use mobile technologies to enhance their faith and personal lives. Whether it's taking selfies in church, tweeting out quotes while you worship, in your service, or sharing inspirational information while on the go with your friends, that's an inspired mobility moment. We at AT&T had partnered with Ebony Magazine to conduct a study on technology and the worship experience, and here are some of the great results. 90% of people polled believe technology has a place in houses of worship, and this acceptance spans demographics, gender, age, income, etc. Everybody feels like technology has a place inside the worship experience, just like in our everyday lives. More survey respondents said that they use their devices to read scripture or take notes over any other mobile activity during the worship experience. And nearly 80% of respondents said technology has had a positive impact on their worship experience. And additionally, Inspire Mobility has given a national platform to have an online conversation on how organizations such as houses of worship or any organizations can expand and engage with their online audiences more effectively utilizing the iChurch method. And is there anything further you'd like to expound upon that, Michelle?
Well, thank you, Jason. I think it's really important that everyone understands that this is a tech-first conversation. It's all about mobility and how people are leveraging it in order to experience their faith or inspiration. So whether you are someone of faith or you're not of faith, but you do seek inspiration daily or maybe weekly, maybe even monthly, online or with your device or with apps, we're interested in you having this conversation and letting us know how you're using this technology to inspire and increase your faith.
That is amazing. And now that we've kind of gave some background on the Inspire Mobility campaign, we want to look at what have we found most interesting about the campaign thus far. And first, I'm going to go over to Chip Dizard. And Chip, can you kind of tell us what you found most interesting about Inspire Mobility thus far, my friend?
Sure, Jason. I really found that the excitement about it has been, infectious. And really, we're at the ground floor of this, so I think that the conversation that we're having and that AT&T is providing is just very groundbreaking, because there's not a lot of times that we get to talk about this. We're talking from things, as you know, when we were in New York, about etiquette, about just all types of technology things in church that we need to talk about, but we really haven't talked about it. So I think that just the excitement about it has been really good for me.
Yeah, I definitely see. You can feel the excitement just watching the online conversation start about it, and just the feedback we got from the initial launch. I definitely agree with you. Tiffani Robinson, I'm going to come over to you, and just can you kind of tell us what you found most interesting about Inspire Mobility thus far?
One of the most interesting things I've seen about it is that it's bridging the gap across all aspects between age, race, religious affiliations. This is something that everybody can be a part of at the palm of their hands. And so it's exciting to see how the church, in a traditional sense, is changing how they communicate and actually embracing, inspired mobility, along with those who utilize it most, which I think in particular is my generation. But as we keep going along and, adding more to what this topic is, I believe that, older generations can kind of pull in as well.
Great, great. And that's one of the main things that we wanted to expound upon, especially showcasing this campaign, is just what the studies have shown, that this is expands across all kinds of demographics, age, race, gender, etc. And being that your generation is a tad bit younger than some of us on here, we definitely are glad for your perspective and what you've shared upon that. And now, let's move on over to Michelle. And Michelle Smith, can you tell us just what have you found most interesting about Inspire Mobility thus far?
I've been so excited about the positive vibes that we've received about this conversation. And to piggyback on what Tiffani has said, just to see the spillage. We launched this at Blogging While Brown, the largest gathering of African-American bloggers in the U.S., but as soon as we started tweeting, as soon as we started posting online, we saw an overflow of other people, of other races, of other religions, of other backgrounds that were getting on board. And I think that's a testament to this being the story of all of us. It's relatable, and it's something that we can all talk about. So I'm interested to see where it goes.
And that's the best part. I think that when we're starting this conversation, we're seeing that there's so many different places and so many different ways that we can talk about. And that's kind of the things that I found most compelling and most interesting thus far, is just from a consumer perspective, I've seen how the campaign has touched such a sweet spot of people, because technology is so integrated into our lives. We're always connected, and we want to have a social experience with a lot of things. And we're seeing now that Inspire Mobility is helping people talk about how that plays out in your worship experience. Another thing I found that's been very interesting is from the organizational perspective, and some of my church tech friends or church friends, they was asking about this campaign and how they can get involved, and just seeing from a church leadership perspective that this conversation is helping them understand how important it is for them to connect with and engage and increase their online audiences, and therefore using tools like the iChurch method and other resources out there, they can learn how to grow their online audience and use technology and not be scared of it, or just find it something that they're not able to take advantage of. So I think this campaign will really bring a voice to that and close that divide. So now, let's move on to our next question. And I'll start with you, Tiffani. What are some of your favorite apps and tools that help you show your faith and inspiration?
Well, I have two. The first one is another social media outlet called Path. I enjoy it because, as opposed to Twitter or Facebook, this is specifically built for inner circles. So I know people say that they kind of lose the social aspect, ironically, dealing with social media. But this is an opportunity for you to talk to your close friends about different things. And with this particular app, You get the benefits of Twitter, from the microblogging, to Facebook by, being able to share different media, pictures, videos, and then so much more along with that. And then, you have the Uverse Bible app, which I just think is great because in an instant I can share whatever it is I'm reading, any passages that go along with the message and service. And so I absolutely love that, as well as one of the tools is the new wearable technology with Google Glass. Now, as of recent, they took away the video platform, but I believe with Glassware that they'll be adding new components to where you can do online sharing with videos, such as Google Plus or whatnot. And the cool thing about Google Glass is bringing that human interaction back, as opposed to everyone's head down, focus on their device or whatnot. They're bringing the perspective back up, so you have that eye-to-eye contact, and I think it's a great tool to use on the church, in the church, on the stage. You're getting the first-person view of what the preacher is saying, and so you get to step in their shoes and get a more in-depth look into the message, how it's being portrayed, the content, and everything. So all of those, I think, are great tools to use for inspired mobility.
Wow. Okay, Tiff. Yeah, you definitely gave a lot of great information there, especially with the Google Glass that I'm sure a lot of people are still trying to understand. And we're going to come back to that definitely, so you can expound upon that. Chip, can you tell us some of your favorite apps and tools that help you show your faith and inspiration?
Sure. Like Tiffany, I think we all like the Bible app, the U version, so I think everyone has used that. I also love YouTube, and just because you can find almost any video on there, and you can share it to any social network. I also like YouTube, Instagram, and Vine. Believe it or not, Vine has a lot of silly things on there, but you can get some ministry applications on there once you get past the silliness. But an app that I really like for ministry are the podcast apps. So I use an app called Stitcher, and that's on Android and on iPhone, and I use the podcast app natively on the Apple. So if I'm on a plane or somewhere traveling, I could download the podcast from my favorite church or my ministry, and I can just share it that way and listen to it wherever I am. So I think being able to take messages on the go, especially mobile, is a big win for me, and any app that I can do that really helps me out.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's two key things that you mentioned there that kind of play into what the apps that I look at, and definitely first and foremost YouTube. It's just with the video component is so engaging, and video is one of the most engaging forms of content on the internet, and just that platform is something that a lot of organizations can utilize to grow their online audience, and specifically with YouTube having over 1 billion unique viewers every month. So, and additionally, also you said with the podcast app, that's something that a lot of organizations and churches can take advantage of, because podcast has the built-in iOS audience, which is first you talk about the native podcast app and the hundreds of millions of users, but also with Stitcher and how easy it is to get podcasts up and out there. And some of the, additionally with that, other apps that I use as well is, as you guys said, the YouVersion Bible app. That's one that's just everybody knows about that. And then of course I also use Instagram and Twitter. And then of course I like those because I just feel like that it's a way for me to stay connected all the time, especially with me sharing out quotes while I'm in service, and then also being able to share out photos and small videos via Instagram, stuff like that. So I really like those apps. And then of course I also use the TD Jakes mobile app, which was developed by this great developer. I'm not going to say his name, but it might be, first name might be Jason, last name might be Caston. But, we don't want to be biased on that, but that's a great ministry app that has had I believe, wow, thousands of downloads. But to each his own. We're going to move on to that. So now let's look at we're talking about the future of faith and technology. And if I'm going to come back to you real quick, when you were talking about Google Glass and some of the things that you were talking about with that, giving that first-person perspective, I want you to weigh in on this, and I'm going to give you an idea about something that I thought about in terms of what Google Glass could mean to the church in the future. And I'll give you an example of an experience. You remember how we had the Michael Jackson where they showed him on the stage and stuff like that, and then I think previously they also showed Tupac back at Coachella, but there was this kind of virtual reality type of feel to it. Do you think that with Google Glass there could be a possibility, and I thought about this, where someone could come into a church service, and this is not during regular service during the week or on the weekend, but they could have on Google Glass and actually watch a message using an augmented or virtual reality type app on Google Glass and see the preacher on stage, as long as the app is programmed correctly, but it will take the limits off of just services only during the week or on the weekends, because using Google Glass you can have that virtual church experience. Do you think something like that could be coming in the near future?
Are you saying within the church or within the homes outside of the church?
I mean within the whole, but I'm talking about that specific experience using Google Glasses and having that type of virtual experience or augmented reality experience. Do you think something like that could actually occur?
I'm pretty sure they're in the workings of doing that now. One of the cool things about Google Glass is that I'm getting everything within eyeshot view. Once I have them on, even when I was on stage at Blogging While Brown, I'm having my notes being displayed in my glass. So instantly I can look over to the right in the upper right corner and I'm getting, messages that I wrote, the notes that I wrote on beside them. No doubt in my mind that they could do something with those images with the augmented reality. I think it's something that might need to happen in the future, just to kind of enhance that whole experience and making the message convenient. One of the things that I've always talked about, 2,000 years ago, Jesus actually went outside of the church and made it convenient for the people, as opposed to just based off of his own talent, waiting for people to come to, within inside the, church walls. So yes, I think, without a shadow of a doubt, if we don't see it within the next 3 to 5 years, or maybe sooner, that augmented reality will be implemented into Google Glass.
Great, and that's the kind of things that we want to kind of touch on when we look at the future of this and inspire mobility. When we talk about mobile devices and AT&T mobilizing our world, we're looking at more than just right now it's mobile devices. People think of smartphones, but what's coming in the future is more than just smartphones, and we kind of want to talk about some of these things, because if we look at you look at an 18-month-year-old, and I can use my children for example. At that age, I was giving them iPads, and so if they're having iPads at that age and they're able to navigate it and get to play Angry Birds or get to Netflix and watch Dora without any assistance, and this is the oldest technology that they'll see in their lifetimes, how will your organization be able to reach them, these digital natives, in 10, 20 years when they'll be technically savvy? You have to get ahead of the curve now and start to understand these things, and that's what this platform is giving us a voice to. Additionally, when we're looking at future faith and technology, from an inspirational perspective, we're seeing faster connections, which lead to more connections, which can lead to more in-depth connections and growth. So in addition to talking about these technology platforms and how they can create more connections and faster connections, we also can look at more in-depth connections, because we want to have a better quality experience in your faith walk, and in addition to a more quantitative experience. Now, for me, from a tech perspective, things that I see coming in the future are internet church campuses, and I see those as what kind of what Tiffany you're alluding to, as far as taking ministry to the people, but creating this online ministry experience that complements the offline ministry experience. And with these virtual campuses that are starting to sprout up, and things that people like myself are starting to build, we're starting to realize that a lot of people may not step foot inside the building as they did before, but they still want to have access to ministry content. They still want to be a part of the ministry experience, and they can do that from their mobile devices or from their digital devices with these internet church campuses and these other virtual experiences that we're starting to build. So basically, the ministry will not have the obstacles of being only open, during the weekly service, midweek service, or the weekend service, but we're now having a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day connected experience. And not just a streaming page, but more of an immersive experience where you can have online prayer and live chat with people, and things that you see in an offline church experience, you can create that online. And it helps churches also become international organizations, because when you go online, you become an international organization, because anybody can access you from around the world. Another thing we're seeing is smarter mobile devices coming in the future, and in the intersection of faith and technology, they'll be able to take advantage of that. Because addition to we're talking about mobile phones and tablets, and Tiffany was talking about Google Glass, we're also seeing smartwatches that are coming down the line, and Apple's getting ready to release theirs. Google's already started releasing theirs, and that'll be another way to stay connected. And I don't know if you have seen any of the smart cars, but Apple has their CarPlay and Android has their car system that's coming out. And if you start to think of if when we're in the car, if we're able to have content that's accessible, ministry, inspirational content that's accessible while we're sitting in traffic, instead of getting frustrated and saying all the things we shouldn't say to the person next to us or that just cut us off, we have some type of inspirational content that might help the road rage, go down just a tad bit, But that's just my opinion on some of the things I think. And then lastly, before I go over to Chip and ask his opinion, I want to talk about Oculus Rift and virtual reality. And if you all are not familiar with that, but that's a virtual reality device that you wear that kind of gives you a full immersive online or immersive experience in virtual reality. And when we're seeing stuff like that come down the line, people like myself and the people that are on this Hangout today, we're starting to think, how can we take this cutting-edge technology and utilize it for inspirational ministry experience? And virtual reality is coming down the line, and the kids are starting to take advantage of it and utilize it. So now we want to see how the ministry can utilize that as well. And so now, with that being stated, let me jump over to Chip. And Chip, kind of let us know, what do you think is coming in the future of faith and technology?
Well, I mean, a lot of stuff that you all say, I co-sign on. One thing we didn't talk about is that in the future, it is now. Let's talk about donations via text and donations via mobile. Those are being more and more. And when you have an internet church campus, Jason, as you know, you want to find a way to be able to give, And if you can't give from your phone, we've seen those programs where you can text your gift to a certain number. You can use a lot of SMS messaging to get donations, and we're seeing now, at least now in church services I've been attending, that people are encouraging members to give online. It helps administratively as well. When you're passing the offering plate around and somebody has to be, counting all the money, now they can just get the monthly reports that come in. So we're here now, and I believe it's going to continue to go forward with that. Also, I see more and more people using video, and I'm talking about mobile video for ministry. More people I talk to, more pastors, they don't need, the thousands of dollars of cameras that they used to have maybe 10, 15 years ago. They can use, the trusty phone and get a pretty good video with that. So that future is here, and people are doing that often, Jason.
And that's the thing. I'm seeing a lot of stuff is starting to. We're seeing that our mobile devices are becoming, just full, all-out multimedia, super production devices. And just in addition to, like you said, being able to broadcast from your device, but also give from your device. So it has an e-commerce perspective, has a multimedia perspective, has a social media perspective, which one of the reasons social media took off was because of mobile. And you're seeing all these different aspects of the mobile device, and this again is part of our Inspired Mobility national conversation. And now, Michelle, just want to get your insight about what do you think is the future of faith and technology? Can you hear me? I think we might have lost Michelle. So we will come back to Michelle as soon as she deals with her get the technology issues resolved. But so what we've seen so far is we've kind of touched on quite a few things. And before we go to our questions from the online viewers, I kind of want to just go through real quick as far as what we've talked about so far, but we kind of want to touch on what was Inspired Mobility and what have you found most interesting about Inspired Mobility from all of us, and then what are some of the favorite apps and tools that help show your faith and inspiration, and we kind of wanted to touch on that so that everybody had an opportunity to see some of the things that we utilize as we continue to have this national conversation. And then, of course, when we're talking about technology, things happen so quickly and things change so quickly, so we wanted to look at what the future in faith and technology was. Did we get Michelle back? Are you back, Michelle?
I'm back. I think that it's very important to note that there are a lot of people out there that don't necessarily attend services, or for whatever reason are outside of a place where they have a worship type experience. I think of the military. I think of people who are just away, and I think that more and more people are going to use that connectivity to tap into their faith and their inspiration. So I think that the Potter's House example that you've given, Jason, is a really good one. Your internet campus, you saw the opportunity to tap into the folks who aren't necessarily coming, and with the generation that has decided that maybe they want to worship in a different way, and part of that is on the go. It's going to be imperative that we make sure that people know that it's available to them, and that they can use their devices and the mobility to tap into it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's one of the things as we're looking at, not just in addition to having this conversation, but also empowering the organizations and the people that are listening on how to get involved and how they can utilize some of these solutions that we're talking about. We're seeing that a lot of a regular building has a limitation on how many people you can fit inside of it, but we have a message that is limitless, so we want to make sure that message can go out and inspirational content can go out all around the world, and therefore we just need to build the platforms that give access to that. And a lot of the platforms and a lot of solutions we're talking about are low cost to free. So that's some of the things we definitely want to utilize. So now I'm going to turn it over to Larice Shelvin, who's with us today. And Larice, do you have any questions from our online audience that we need to answer from this amazing panel?
Hey, folks, I do. The first question is from someone from Twitter, has asked, as a millennial wife with 5 children, I'm interested in the option for my kids now versus 10 years. So I guess she's asking what tools and resources she can use for her kids now opposed to future.
Okay, great. I'll start with that, and then I'll give it over to our panelists. But some of the things with the children right now, I think YouVersion has just released a Bible app for kids that's really great. I think one of the things that they've done with that app is they've helped build a more, again, I like using this word, is immersive experience, because children like to learn different ways, multi-sensory aspects, and they utilize multimedia and imagery and video much more. And that app seemed to be a much more visual perspective of a way of teaching these great lessons. So I think that's one of the things that I've seen. I'm not sure if anybody else on the panel has seen anything for the kids as far as what they can utilize now.
Yeah, for me, Jason, I've seen a Bible coloring book, and I've seen there's so many different apps out there, but anything where the kids can have fun and show illustrated scenes from the Bible and learn the Bible as well. And there are many developers out there that are developing apps for children as we speak now, and continue to do that.
I was going to jump in and say that I believe it was yesterday, YouVersion announced a Spanish language version of the Bible app for kids. So it's multicultural as well.
And just to add on, for older, kids or whatnot, getting messages on the go, TD Jakes app is a perfect one in their archive system, as well as I've seen One Church LA. Just saw a message on my Instagram about that, but Ustream, has a lot of messages from various churches around the U.S. And so I would encourage them to check out, local churches or whatnot who have streaming capabilities. And for churches who don't have streaming capabilities, there's a wide range of tools out there for them to implement that that'll hit directly for my generation. So.
Okay, great. And then, okay, Larice, you got any additional questions?
Let's see here. What advice do you have for churches who want to do more with technology?
Wow. Okay. I will address that. I think. Well, actually, before I get to that, I'm gonna hand it over to Chip. Chip, what do you think about that first?
Wow, that's a broad question, but yeah. I think that You just have to start. I think it comes from the leadership, and everyone that I've talked to, everyone I dealt with, it has to come from the top, and you have to see the benefits that it's here to stay. So bring someone in, do your research, whatever you have to do. There's so many online resources out there. One of the problems I see around the country is that people say, well, my congregation is too old. And, that's not true. I'm dealing with congregations that have, 60, 70-year-olds tweeting, and 70-year-olds on Facebook sharing things and on Instagram. So I think you have to start with the leadership, get a plan, and start with a plan of how you want to integrate not only social media, but how to share your story of your church. And I think that's important. A lot of times it starts with a story. Michelle, you alluded when we first started Google Hangout about how a church is a social network. So we need to learn how to get out of that just bubble of our congregation that all it takes is one retweet for it to go viral or one Facebook share away from someone hearing your message.
I'd even like to take it one step back and say, if you don't know where to start, a great place to start is to follow the hashtag Inspired Mobility, because there is a rich conversation that's already happening among thought leaders and people like Chip and Tiffani and Jason and churches and so forth. They're all thirsting for this knowledge, and I think as people continue to talk and continue the conversation, you'll discover and network with people who'll be able to point you to the right resources.
Okay, so what I'm going to do actually for this for that question is let's teach for a second. Now, since this campaign has given us, I like the fact about this campaign has given us a dual approach where we talk from a consumer perspective and we talk from an organization to help you perspective. You want to learn how to utilize technology better. Here's a method that'll work for you. We call it the iChurch method. You start with your website. You look at your website presence. That's one of the most important things to start with. Look at how does your website look? Is it a representative of your ministry? 75% of people research your ministry online before they step foot in the doors. Does your website represent your ministry to be one of the largest welcoming ministries and most important ministries of your organization? If you think your website is great, adaptive, works, and think mobile first, because most people are looking on their mobile device as opposed to being situated in front of a computer. Once you get that situated, step 2 is look at your multimedia. Do you have video, audio, images to visually tell your story, as Chip was saying? Every week the church creates a lot of content, your organization creates a lot of content, so do you have visual content so that you can tell your story visually? You can do that on your website, and that'll allude to social media when we get to that step. Step number 3, e-commerce. You need finances to run the organization. So do you have online donations? Do you have ways for people to support your ministry financially, text to give, stuff like that? If you have that, and you can use, if you need something free, PayPal is a good tool to start with, and then work from there. And I know some of our international audience, I know PayPal is not accessible as much in other countries, so we can look at different solutions in different countries, but for the most part, nationally here in the U.S., PayPal is the best free option. Step 4, look at your social media presence. Social media has fundamentally changed the way we utilize the internet. So we want to look at social media and start to build out your social media platforms. You have to have a strategy for all this, as Chip alluded to. We're not just throwing stuff at the wall. We'll give you a methodology in order steps that you should start building this out. Social media, Facebook first, Twitter, then look at, but you want to look at what your audience is already using. Ask your congregation, what are they using, where are they at, and then you go there. And then lastly, we'll look at mobile from the aspect of apps and stuff like that, because mobile encompasses everything that we talked about here. So when you look at your mobile presence and you want to think about how people can connect with you on the go and what type of experience you can give them on the go, because again, the generation of people you're trying to reach, studies have shown that in a lot of stuff that we've studied here with this campaign, people are no more than 3 feet away from their mobile devices at any given time. So the best way for your ministry to be accessible anytime, any place, anywhere is to have a mobile presence that people can look at anytime, any place, anywhere. Okay? All right, there we go. That's all for teaching for today. And then, so now, Larice, do we have any additional questions that you have for us from our online audience?
We've got one last question. I think we've got time for one last question, which is, what does mobile technology in church mean for personal interaction?
Wow, that is a very good one. Okay, well, let's can we go over to Tiffany first with that? And Tiffany, what do you think about mobile technology, and what does it mean in terms of, Luis, can you clarify the question again? What does mobile technology mean in terms of what?
Personal interaction. So I think what they're asking is, what does it mean for kind of your day-to-day offline experiences? Does that go away?
Oh, okay. Tiffany, what do you think about that?
For me, I think it enhances the overall experience. I know they say with everyone's head down, it kind of takes away, or being on social media, you don't necessarily need the personal interaction. But I think for the most part, what we see inside the church, it the reach is just astronomical. Once the pastor tells us to, touch your neighbor, pass your neighbor, not only do you have that personal interaction, you can switch it, and I can tweet the exact same message and reach all of my followers on various, social media outlets. So for me and my generation, I believe it enhances it. You got to understand, mobile technology was kind of our thing, and when I say that, I'm saying we were birthed into it. This is all we've known. The example that Jason used with his daughter, the oldest technology is what she sees right now, which is far more, advanced than what, people before us have seen. And so with that information, this is a great opportunity for us to have, more interactions, not just on a personal, standpoint, but all the way around.
I'd like to jump in on that one. I think when people begin to think about mobility and faith, the first thing they think of is social media inside the sanctuary. And I'd love to broaden that. And this conversation actually allows us to think about the expectations that people have when they walk into a sanctuary and they whip out their tablet or their device. The expectation is that there would be Wi-Fi so that they could connect with the app that's there, or that they could access the Bible app, or any other the other tools that you would use to actually participate in the service. I think through the tips that Jason provided in our newsroom, it's clear, and also from Ebony Magazine's research, that the majority of people understand that you need to be present, you want to be present, and that anything that you do should enhance your experience, whether you're inside the church or you're streaming.
Jason, I want to add too. I remember when we were in Harlem at First Corinthian and Social Media Sunday, and at first I was wondering how the interaction was going to go, but it was right, Michelle. It was very natural. It just seemed so natural that it didn't seem staged. It didn't seem like, what should we do next? I mean, we had a couple, selfies and things, but I think it enhanced, to me, our interaction. That, hey, we all have phones. Let's use them and be inviters. Let's use them to actually do something very positive. You know what I mean? I even have a friend, a pastor friend, that says, hey, guys, hold up your cell phones during prayer, and I want you to text the name of the person that you're going to pray for. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
So that's powerful to me. And I think that these are ways that we couldn't have done 20 years ago. We couldn't have done this kind of stuff. And if you get a text message from somebody when you're sitting at home on Sunday, say, hey, we just prayed for you. And you're like, oh, okay, thanks. Or, So I think that we're like I said, we're at the beginning, but I think really it's going to just enhance it. Yeah, of course, you can distract, but just like a piece of paper can distract. So I think it's just finding ways how we can use this positively and be proactive. And I always go back to leadership. If leadership is proactive about it, like what we saw on Social Media Sunday in Harlem, and we had a great experience.
Exactly, and that's what I think is the main thing. No matter what, in all aspects of our lives, whether it be our worship experience over the weekend or just a random experience throughout the week, there's two things going on with the world we live in today. There's an offline experience and there's an online component that goes along with it. And if there isn't an online component, somebody is usually creating an online component that will actually happen around it, which is why people always say, no matter what you're doing, somebody has a cell phone or video phone that's recording what you're doing. Therefore, the only way other people can see that is because of it's online. So now, when we're looking at how our experiences can be enhanced or even be distractive with our mobile devices, we're just knowing that whatever we're happening offline has that has an effect online, and what happens online has an effect offline. And the lines are blurring between the two experiences. And so as we continue to get more comfortable and see that all aspects of our lives will have a virtual component to it, then people will start to gradually utilize mobility more, and it'll just be an overall much more immersive and pleasurable experience. Right now, it's still new, which is why we have a great opportunity for this national platform and for this conversation that we're having. But again, everything, all parts of technology was new at one time, and then it just became commonplace. And we just want to help the people that are watching, the organizations that are watching, everybody just get ahead of the curve, or at least get on the train that's already moving to help utilize and understand this technological advances that are happening rapidly. So, with that being stated, we have now come to the end of our Google Hangout, and I'm going to turn it over to Michelle so she can let us know what things are coming down the line and let you all know how you can stay connected with this conversation.
Well, first of all, let's address the last thing you mentioned first. How do you stay connected with this conversation? It's very important that you use the hashtag Inspired Mobility. And all you have to do is share your experiences and how you are experiencing faith or inspiration through your mobility experience. That's number one. And number two, use that hashtag and search for the conversations that are going, and find people like you and other people who are involved in ushering in this cultural shift. It's an online conversation, and it's a conversation that happens at dinner tables. It's very easy to get involved in, and you'll find some very interesting people online that are engaged in it. The next thing I'd like to share with you is that you need to go to our newsroom at att.com/about us, enter keyword inspired mobility, and you'll find the content where we've started the conversation and we're continuing the conversation. You'll be able to see a live blog there that will have rolling editorial. I think our most recent post had to do with apps that you could use for inspiration that were in Spanish and other languages. So you'll see a rich conversation there. And then finally, we hope to extend these Google Hangouts to include more topics that you might be interested in. So you have our Twitter addresses. Tweet us, let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll make sure that Jason and the gang and maybe some other players that you haven't quite heard from yet are here to talk about those things. So those are the things that I can leave you with.
All right, well, thank you for that information. I'd like to thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, my friend Chip. And as well, thank you, Larice, for joining us today. And we look forward to connecting with you very soon again in the future. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.